Your Excellencies, my name is Milica Nikolić. It is my exceptional honor to walk you through this important event that we are organizing together with International Festival Kotor Art. In next few days, we will rethink and remodel and reshape our cultural world and the effects of COVID on everyday life, especially connected with culture. On the very beginning, let me ask Mr. Vladimir Jokić, Mayor of Kotor, to address us.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, Mr. Šešum, Mr. Martinović, ladies and gentlemen, let me all greet you all on behalf of Municipality of Kotor and in my personal name. The coronavirus pandemic has shut everything down. For over a year, we have been witnessing that what was normal to us for almost our entire lives has been stopped in an instant. Last summer, an empty city was our new normal every day. Last year, the loss of close dear people, well known to us, was a bad everyday life. We met and held meetings throughout applications, listened about the new figures every day, and rejoiced if there were at least one victim less today compared to the day before. We listened to the forecast from extremely optimistic to not cheerful at all. Our lives have turned into statistics. Then April came with a reduced number of patients for 7 weeks in a row in Montenegro. The first tourists, the first noise in the city, when we heard a foreign language for the first time in what seemed to be ages ago. The first time we rejoiced endlessly when, due to being stopped in a long columns on vehicles, we were late for work, a return home or a very important meeting. For the first time, it is normal to have a crowd, noise, to hug a friend. Kotor is a normal city again, in a different way than it was until 2 years ago, but after all, normal again. Throughout the centuries, Kotor has been a place of unification of ideas, which spread from this place towards the rest of Montenegro. It is the very history of our city that has led us to consider today with the organizers of this conference what the new normality is. It is a great honor for me that Kotor is the host of this conference, which will, according to my sincere belief, concretize in these days to come to the new ways of living and functioning, the new ways of consuming art and life, and which will bring us to the new ideas that will help us become better for our city, for other people, and for ourselves. Kotor is a city where foreign and domestic meet. Kotor has always been a meeting point of different cultures and traditions, and that is why Kotor can strongly, firmly, and steadily welcome any new normalcy to which we need to adapt because time changes and so do we. I wish all the participants at the conference a fruitful discussion and hereby declare this conference open. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we are in UNESCO city. Kotor has 2 UNESCO statuses, 2 designations. First one from 1979, when it was inscribed on the World Heritage List in danger and the World Heritage List in parallel after the big earthquake which hit this city. And it damaged its cultural heritage and, of course, human lives. The other designation came 2017, and it is a joint multinational nomination of Croatia, Italy, and Montenegro called Venetian Works of Defense. We are very proud that this city belongs to 2 UNESCO designations. Together with that, I want also to emphasize the role of Kotor Art International Festival. Since Kotor has some challenging times and had some challenging times from 1979 to today, especially when you have in mind that this big core zone of Kotor of almost 15,000 hectares it's really hard to manage and hard to valorize in proper manner, as Mayor Jokic could also witness in previous times. He had different challenges with this, and we are very thankful for the cooperation that we had with the municipality during his mayorship. Also, Kotor Art International Festival has some challenges during 2 decades. Last night we have witnessed the opening of 20 years of Kotor Art International Festival, and it would be completely impossible without amazing team of Kotor Arts, which is together with us today. So we are really grateful that you are offering to this city specific cultural content, which is really unique, and it is a proper place since Kotor has this wonderful landscape culture heritage, which is internationally recognized. So thank you, first of all, Kotor Art team. I would now like to ask our dear colleague Siniša Šešum. He's not only representative of UNESCO, but also a real and truly friend of Montenegro and especially Kotor, to address this meeting. Siniša?
Good evening. Respected Mr. Jokic, Mayor of Kotor, dear Milica, Secretary General of Montenegrin National Commission for UNESCO, Your Excellencies, dear our host, Mr. Martinovic, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honored to greet you tonight on behalf of UNESCO in the beautiful city of Kotor, UNESCO World Heritage Sites that holds 2, not 3, because I heard that today there was in the news that, it holds 3 UNESCO designations, and at the same time to convey regards and best wishes to all participants of this conference and to the 2021 edition of Kotor Art Festival. UNESCO is very happy and honored to have once more an opportunity to grant patronage for this important event. Created back in 2002, the Kotor Art has become one of the leading cultural events in the region, bringing together here in Montenegro, in Kotor, artists from a broad spectrum of fields working in different ways, but who are united in their commitment to artistic creation and their unique contribution to human well-being. We can feel free to say without hesitations that Kotor Art is an annual celebration of culture and dialogue, because through arts and creativity, artists explore, exchange, and express unique values of freedom, common understanding, and reconciliation. The festival also reminds us that we must continue promoting culture as an engine for social cohesion and sustainable development. This message is more important than ever before in the times of global COVID-19 pandemic that causing economic, social, and political instability worldwide. I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate and express our highest gratitude to Kotor Art team for the organization of this 20th edition of the festival, as we see this event as a concrete proof of resilience of culture sector during very difficult times of ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Creativity is one of the strongest forces of today, and through their activities, the participants have been contributing to the global shaping of culture and artistic expressions, and therefore UNESCO would like to sincerely encourage them to continue with their excellent work. We gather here today to talk about an important topic, and that is so-called a new normality, that influencing all segments of each and every society worldwide, and the culture and creative sector are not spared from it. The last 17 months put us all in front of an unprecedented global challenge, during which the first priority was to secure the health system and to save people's lives. The emergency sanitary measures entitled difficulties of other kinds, deeply impacting the social and economic spheres, with serious consequences for cultural institutions and professionals. Yet, despite all that, the world has gone through the culture reminded alive and help us remaining alive. Culture was for many of us a refugee during the times of isolation and concern. We want to take this opportunity to express our most sincere appreciation and gratitude to all those organizations, individuals that work hard during this period to support the culture sector and to foster its recovery, starting from ministries of culture of your respective countries. UNESCO sought to accompany the culture sector during this process in many ways, including through advocacy, knowledge advancement, policy advices, and reinforcement of international cooperation. In some of the countries, the effects of the pandemic were compounded by other emergencies, such as national disasters that we had in Croatia and Albania. Therefore, the resilience is one of the key topics that is due to the events caused by the climate change by ongoing pandemic becoming more and more relevant. Such events do not affect cultural sector only, but people's well-being in general, and therefore a resilience of the sector is crucial for sustainability of societies. Just a few weeks ago, for the second time, we celebrated 21st of May, International Day of Cultural Diversity for Development in Pandemic. Let me use this as the occasion to also remind you of the good lessons we have learned from this experience, such as still largely unexplored potential of digital technologies in harnessing culture and cultural diversity. We also witnessed to a renewed interest of the cultural practices, including in this region and in your countries, and to the blossoming of the new institutional as well as grassroots initiatives highlighting the richness of the diversity and cultures. As an essential common good, culture is a vector of resilience and human development, both socially and economic, with the framework of the national policies undertaken to overcome crisis. To support this joint effort, UNESCO has undertaken a wide data collection and analysis of all efforts on the global scale in order to assess the impact of COVID-19 on the cultural sector and to identify measures of support deployed by the governments to the sector. This data collection and analysis allow us to help your developing action in short, medium, and long term, and to better support public policies. As already mentioned, the new reality caused by COVID-19 reminded us that the digital technology is at the core of significant change in the way that modern societies are dealing both with cultural and creative sector. New ways of performing, promoting, creating, and distributing culture are quickly emerging and evolving. Digital technologies create new opportunities and new ways and for creativity by empowering artistic creation and optimizing collaboration, by enabling greater access to culture, more people, and art education to the public, and consequently directly attracting users and audiences, engagement and development, and finally promoting the entire culture sector. However, while the new technologies have profoundly changed the way that artistic works are circulated today, technology cannot substitute for real exchanges with and between the artists, which often impact their creativity in unexpected ways. The direct experience of live performances and the mobility of artists and cultural professionals are more crucial than ever in the context of post-COVID-19 recovery as means to support not only economic development, but also intercultural dialogue and cooperation. The Kotor art and today's conference are direct proof on the importance of the direct contacts and exchanges. The last but not the least, UNESCO will further continue to strengthen data collection around contribution of culture to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, because everything today is around sustainable development. And we are rolling just now, including here in Montenegro, new culture 2030 indicators. And these indicators will greatly reinforce the evidence based on culture's contribution to sustainable development and provide advice to advance the culture sector for the achievement of the SDGs. At the same time, new indicators are also to inform decision makers on the importance to increase resilience of the culture sector during difficult times such as COVID-19 pandemic. I wish you a very successful conference. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sinisha. We are really privileged that we have regional office of UNESCO in Venice, and especially antenna office in Sarajevo, which really helps us a lot. And not only today, in continuity in the last 20 years, we have really strong cooperation with you, and we are really grateful for that. And also, while we are in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I must mention that we have really great cooperation with Bosnia and Herzegovina together, and we also share this joint nomination with Croatia and Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro, staged medieval tombstone graveyards, which are very important for us. And we have international group and many other joint activities. So I will now call His Excellency Mr. Juric to address us. And one more thing to mention is that Bosnia and Herzegovina has privilege to be a World Heritage Committee member in this cycle. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I do not know what to add after this intro. First, allow me to thank Victor and Ratimir and to congratulate the city mayor of Kotor on the 20th anniversary of the Kotor art. I think it is a really significant date and that we can celebrate it in the old normality way, not in the new normality way. Speaking about the term, what we have learned in this year and a half, not only about art, about culture, but about, as you have correctly mentioned, Sinisha, about the resilience of the society. Because art and culture are always, or at least the quality one, is direct mirroring to the society, to its values, to its hopes, and even to its experiences. So to define new normality, I think we would also need to reminiscence also about what was the old normality. I do not think that everything is bad that happened during this year and a half. For instance, having in mind that people were mostly at home, that they first couldn't travel, that they couldn't go out shopping, to have all these, shallow experiences, if I may put it that way. People basically stopped. They had a reminiscence on their life. They also basically were able to see what is the real importance in the life. And I think that at least here in the region, you have a new wave of reading, of the reading of the books, of new assessments of the artistic work generally, and to visit nature landscapes and also the cultural sites in their own countries. I think that is maybe one of the added values, if I may say so, here regarding this new normality. The second thing that I really want to emphasize is this solidarity. First, with the coping with the crisis, and I really have to emphasize, inside society, inside the entire region, Europe, and now even the world. And it is also reflected not only in these economical issues regarding the transport of the passengers, even from the returning from the citizens that have been abroad, but also regarding this new wave of cooperation especially between the artists. You have a really speeding up of the development of the different platforms. Did anyone heard about the Zoom before this happened, or Microsoft Teams, of anything? But artists, they use it to have a new platform in which they can have online concerts, online exhibitions, and all other performances, and all other aspects of the art. So everything that could be visualized or heard, it was really used. That is one of the things that really show the resilience. What I think that we will have a real assessment of this year and a half situation, hopefully it will not continue in the autumn, is regarding the art products that have been made during this year and a half. What is, from the artists, from the cultural side, what was there, because they always have the best optics regarding any crisis, regarding any huge event that happened in their country or all over the world. As someone said it, basically every society has its three books. It's books of laws, books of history, and books of artwork. And the third one is the most genuine and most truthful. I think that every society stopped on the break, took a deep breath, and rethink what is really important for them. I'll just remind you regarding, some statistics regarding CO2 pollution emission that was so decreased during this year. I will also remember you regarding the photo of the dolphins in the Venice. You have, I think, after so many years, the visit of the dolphins of one of the UNESCO sites. And also, third thing that I really want to emphasize is that how resilient we are, all, as a society, as a countries, as people, as artists, as culture. And I think this really put a new seed regarding new technologies, how they can be used, but also that any technology can't replace human contact, human visit, human communication. I would really like, to finish with these words. I think that we will have new normality and the old normality, and we will see this really through artistic arts, through their expressions, what was their real perception and what really happened to us. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions.
I would have one specific question, if it's possible. I wanted to see what is your approach towards the position of museums during COVID crisis. We know that in all our countries, in previous year, we have witnessed closure of the museums. And if you know that museums are memories, places of memory of one culture or identities, it would be really important if you can just reflect on the importance of museums in everyday life and connect it with the COVID influence, if possible.
Well, thank you for your question. As you know, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, you have, how would I say, this culturally significant institutions for the entire country. The most famous museum in Bosnia and Herzegovina is Zemaljski Muzej in Sarajevo. It was founded, I think, in 1888. It is really easy mnemonically to remember it. And as you know, I think all over the museums, all over the world, they dropped, I think, more than 90% regarding the selling of the tickets and regarding the visits. They had a few breaks during the summertime, but then COVID again hit with the full force during the autumn. But what they have managed to do is to try to clean up all those economical, financial issues and all those administrative issues. So they basically managed to have this break to put it firmly on the foundations, and especially to solve this administrative side. That is regarding the museums as a functioning institutions. Regarding their production, we are so privileged here in this region. Basically, we do not have any language barrier. Even the cultural heritage of the different countries is pretty. All the citizens are pretty familiar with it, and I think at least in these virtual tours, all those museum goods, all those exponats, they managed to come to every home, and I think that people have been much more educated regarding in the culture, in the art, and everything in that 1 year of the COVID crisis than maybe in the few years before. So as I said, not everything was bad during this year in the half of the lockdown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it is really nice that you mentioned the Zemaljski Muzej. If you allow us, it's something which we share really much as part of larger community, not only Bosnian and Herzegovinian monument of culture. Since we don't have Mayor, His Excellency Liu Jin, Ambassador of China with us, I will just put some speech he was prepared, and we have it online. Okay.
Dear friends, Dobar dan. It's my great pleasure to attend the Cultural Art Festival once again this way. I would like to express my warm congratulations on the event. The pandemic has changed everybody's life. If the body needs to be healed by medicine, the soul needs to be soothed by culture and arts. The appreciation of arts and culture become particularly important during the pandemic, as it can boost confidence in a better future and gathering courage to overcome difficulties. To a certain extent, artists are doctors who heal the wounds and minds and hearts. Please allow me to take this opportunity to pay my sincere respect to the artists who participated in this event, and I trust that your artistic presentation will be a torch to light the way ahead of in dark night of pandemic and guiding people to run towards a bright future. The Kotor Art Festival has increasingly become an important platform for cultural and artistic exchange between Montenegro and the world, with a unique attraction for artists and art lovers from China and all over the world. The Chinese Embassy in Montenegro has always enjoyed close cooperation and collaboration with festival organizing. As a result, the children's choir from Xi'an, Kotor's sister city in China, as well as the world-class Chinese pianist Wang Yujia, have participated in the festival several times, presenting a wonderful audio-visual feast for the audience in Montenegro and around the world. At the end of this month, outstanding young musicians from Shanghai, China will overcome the obstacles of the pandemic and open the Chinese stage for the first time at the Kotor Art Festival with a good view of the Chinese people. I'm sure that the performance will allow the people of Montenegro and the rest of the world to appreciate the young generation of Chinese musicians, deepening mutual understanding and enhance mutual friendship, which will be another great story of Chinese and Montenegro people working together to fight the pandemic. Rich in art and history, the ancient city of Kotor is a must-see for Chinese tourists visiting Western Balkan. Before the pandemic, the number of Chinese tourists coming to Montenegro had doubled year on year. With the increasing supply of vaccines from China and other countries and international organizations such as COVAX, the day when the pandemic is completely under control is not out of sight. The tourism cooperation and people-to-people exchange between the two countries are expected to be back to normal. Although China and Montenegro have different cultural traditions, the two countries are both characterized by openness and inclusiveness. This year marks the 15th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Montenegro. Standing at a new historical starting point, China is willing to deepen people-to-people exchange with Montenegro under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative and the China Central and Eastern European Cooperation, so as to benefit the people of our two countries through mutual appreciation of civilizations and jointly promote the building of the community with a shared future for the mankind. With the Winter Olympic to be held in Beijing early next year, we hope that the Olympic spirit will inspire the artists to create and bring us more artistic delights. Finally, I wish the event a great success. May Kotor Art Festival be more and more successful. Thank you very much. Dear friends,
unfortunately, Ambassador of China is not with us, so we cannot have live discussion with him, but probably we'll have in some additional event which will happen in future, hopefully. So while we are in China, I just want to emphasize that also China is a member state of World Heritage Committee, which is actually starting tomorrow. It is a very important event for World Heritage around the world, and as you can imagine, we are following that really closely. So now I would like to ask our next speaker, His Excellency Vladislav Maslenikov, Ambassador of Russia to Montenegro, to address this event.
Dear Mr. Mayor, Your Excellencies, colleagues, ambassadors, and ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to participate in this conference, especially in Kotor, where the Russian diplomatic presence in the Balkans started back in 1804, and it's just 50 meters maybe from here that the building is situated where there was the first consulate of the Russian Empire in the Balkans. And on a personal note, in 2004, I made part of the delegation which came from Russia to open up a memorial plaque over there. So it's really a pleasure to be in Kotor again. Looking back at historically short but rather hard experience of the last year and a half, it's clear that the COVID-19 pandemic affected all the spheres of life in all the countries. But as expected from the start, actually, the most damaging impact of this global crisis have been felt in the field of education and culture. The latest figure say that more than 80% of UNESCO World Heritage objects were closed down during the period of lockdown in 2020, and maintenance of millions of those engaged in the sector of arts and cultural tourism has been seriously jeopardized. The global health crisis has profoundly affected the work of cultural organizations and those who work in the cultural sector. Just to illustrate the scale of problem in my country, Russia, during the pandemic, the most famous Russian museums, Hermitage in St. Petersburg and the Tretyakov Art Gallery in Moscow, announced that they lost more than 70% of their visitors in the year 2020, and more than half of annual revenue. The theaters and concert halls, even the world-famous ones, have found themselves in the same situation. This unprecedented challenge required urgent measures. During these difficult times, arts and culture sector organizations all over the world attempted to uphold their mission to provide access to cultural heritage to the community, providing tremendous spiritual and moral support to the people. Artists, creators, and culture professionals, as well as organizations in the culture sphere, have a fundamental role in promoting well-being and resilience in individuals and communities, guarantee access to information, encourage awareness and tolerance. There have been countless initiatives, mostly in the online format, to boost access and engagement. The silver lining here is probably that the virus forced culture to expand its presence in the virtual space and basically to live in this space. And quantitatively, the number of people who began to explore new opportunities is incomparable with what one museum or theater can accommodate over the year. Recently, the world-famous Russian conductor Valery Gergiev has estimated that in 3 pandemic months of April to June 2020, 72 million viewers, among them 60 million from Russia, has watched the Mariinsky Theater performances broadcasted online on the internet. The situation is similar for the Bolshoi Theater. During the time of lockdown, with people staying at home, such initiatives help them not only to overcome the difficult period from the psychological perspective, but also to enrich their knowledge of cultural heritage and current activities, which is certainly very good. But of course, this is a perspective of a spectator. A perspective of creators and performers is different. For several months, cultural figures and organizations laid out their products online, usually without earning anything. So for them, a problem was how to live on. Recognizing the importance of the support of culture in such a turbulent period in Russia, for instance, several initiatives have been suggested for on the state level in order to help those working in the cultural sphere. For example, special expenses were introduced in the national plan of the country's economy recovery adopted by the Russian authorities in September 2020. Understanding all the difficulties faced by the cultural sector, the government of Russia made every effort to support the entities working in it. The cultural life against all odds continued in Russia, and we succeeded to find new formats for supporting cultural activities. Today, with the creation of the new vaccines and speeding up the vaccination process, the situation with the coronavirus epidemic in our country becomes more predictable, and little by little we're coming back to normal, which also applies for the functioning of cultural entities in our country. We managed to keep the theaters and concert halls open, though with less spectators allowed in. One more thing that I would like to stress is an input of the prominent personalities in different spheres of culture during pandemic. With their art and talent, they have been strengthening an atmosphere of unity in our societies, a confidence that life goes on and everything will get back to normal no matter what. That kind of volunteer activity deserves our appreciation. In this difficult period for all our nations and societies, they did their best to make sure that the cultural life in our countries continues uninterrupted, and that our citizens could watch theater performances and listen to lectures and concerts online. Artists, creators, and professionals, as well as organizations in the cultural sector, have a fundamental role in promoting well-being and resilience. As I said before. Of course, it's also great to see that even during the pandemic, new works have been created, and I have seen examples both in Russia and here in Montenegro. Both online and offline, which is also, gives us all a great hope for the future. I also would like to thank UNESCO as one of the organizers of today's conference for its active role during the pandemic. Russia is one of the key partners of UNESCO, supports the work of organization. We also try to make an input there. For instance, a Russian draft served the basis for a decision by the Executive Council last year on the item influence of the COVID-19 on UNESCO program and activities, in which member states stressed the need for international cooperation in addressing the challenges posed by the pandemic. Just to finish and trying to answer the question in the title of our panel, how do we adjust to the new circumstances, allow me to quote the Russian writer Leo Tolstoy, who once said, "Take what is available and move forward. This is what makes humankind strong." Thank you. Before the question.
Thank you for inspirational speech. It was really informative. And I see that you put, as Russia, put much emphasis on digitalization. And personally, I really cherish this something which is digitalization as the most important thing in culture, because people in culture usually speak about digitalization, but now in the period of pandemic, this strive for digitalization obviously get spread out through all different sectors. So this is really important. So I was wondering if you can share with us, do you know if there was a policy on digitalization before the pandemic, or it was developed later, or it was spontaneously created?
I would say that the policy of digitalization was there long before the pandemic, but of course it was speeded up by the process. But just to give an example, even if we look at the most important, the biggest and most important museums in Russia, even the process of getting in started, getting digitalized quite a few years ago. For instance, if maybe 6-7 years ago, it was still, the common thing to come to a museum and take a ticket at the cashier's desk at the entrance. For instance, already like maybe 4 years ago, the most common thing for everybody going to visit St. Petersburg was to buy all the tickets on the internet beforehand with concrete time, and which helps a lot to make your own program of stay more comfortable. And at the same time, already quite maybe 7 to 10 years back, museums started digitalizing the content of what they can offer, but that was rather a slow process, and now we can see that was pretty speeded up during the pandemic, which is especially important maybe for, once again, the biggest museums like Hermitage, like Tretyakov Gallery, who besides what you can see in the museum itself, have huge reserves, which can be seen from time to time at the exhibitions, temporary exhibitions, but really they deserve to be seen at least in digital terms, and that process has been sped up during the pandemics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see that many ambassadors shared with us their experience with digitalization, and this is something which we can discuss later, in later stage. But now I will ask our next speaker, Her Excellency Karen Maddox, Ambassador of United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this wonderful event. So it's clear that the pandemic has changed the world, and it has had a significant impact on arts and culture and tourism, as we know all too well in Kotor. And some of those changes, I hope, will be temporary. We don't know yet whether some of the changes will be long-lasting because the pandemic isn't over yet. So I'm speaking from a British perspective today. So let me use some very British examples to give you an optimistic perspective about COVID-19 and which illustrate the two things that we British people are most proud of. So number one, our long history of arts and culture, of writers, poets, artists, and the theatre. And number two, our reputation as one of the most innovative and technologically advanced countries in the world, and the experience of our modern creative industries during the pandemic. So let's start with the traditional culture. So where better to start for Britain than Shakespeare? What many people don't know is that Shakespeare grew up in the time of a pandemic. It was the bubonic plague. In the village where Shakespeare grew up, when he was 7 years old, 1/5 of his village died from the plague, 20%. People at that time went through periods of quarantine. Public gatherings were banned, and the theatres in London were closed for months at a time. So it sounds very familiar to us now. But during this time of theatre closures, Shakespeare was arguably at his most creative. He wrote Macbeth and The Tempest during those plague years, when the theatres were closed more often than they were open. And while the London theatres were shut, Shakespeare started making links with provincial cities in other parts of the country, including Bath and Coventry and others. So the pandemic meant he had to find new places to show his plays and to find new and wider audiences. And 400 years after the death of Shakespeare, his art lives on. During the COVID-19 pandemic, in fact, I watched several of his plays online with the Royal National Theatre with my children at home on the television. I've actually never been to that theatre in person. And Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, which showed his plays 400 years ago when it wasn't shut, will, as part of its summer programme this year, live stream performances of Shakespeare shows as they are happening. So people will pay for tickets to watch Shakespeare shows at the Globe in their own homes this year. The Globe Theatre is reaching audiences that it wouldn't have reached otherwise all over the world, just as Shakespeare reached wider audiences nearly 500 years ago. So I'm just using the example of Shakespeare because I think there's a really nice symmetry with what is happening in this era. And the pandemic has been tough for individuals working in the arts, culture, and tourism. But the fact that Shakespeare's art survives today is evidence that the arts and culture as a sector endures and it evolves. The sector has evolved in response to the current pandemic. So those who could make a digital offering have done, just as my Russian colleague has given some great examples, and just like the Royal National Theatre did in London. And that benefit will continue after the pandemic is long gone. This sector has emerged more modern and more accessible than it ever was before. The parts of the arts industry which have always been digital have really thrived. So in the UK, we are an innovative country with very strong digital technology expertise, and we have a very strong creative industries sector, so things like computer games and film and television. In particular, the gaming industry has done very well over the last 2 years. And according to the UK Association for Interactive Entertainment, the income from gaming software in the UK gaming sector has increased by 18% in 2020 during the pandemic year. And one reason why the UK has the largest games development sector in Europe is because we have the structures and the support in place to encourage innovation in schools, universities, and business. So it has not all been bad news for the arts sector as a whole. COVID-19 has shown that digitalization is essential for the arts and cultural sectors to become more resilient, to reach new audiences. And innovation has always been key to long-term survival in any sector. But individuals and organizations working to sustain the arts and cultural industries can't always survive on their own. They need government funding too, I think, and support. And just as an example, what we did in the UK, in total, the British government provided grants and loans from a cultural recovery fund of more than £1.2 billion, and they supported over 5,000 individual cultural and heritage organisations. So the funding has helped organisations across the country to cover losses from COVID and to support investment as they welcome back visitors and return to normal operating models. Recipients include the National Theatre, the Royal Shakespeare Company, the English Heritage Trust, and that's an organisation which cares for 420 historic monuments, buildings and palaces. And also Glastonbury Music Festival as it plans its next festival next year. Other recipients include the British Film Institute, independent cinemas, theatres, museums, comedy clubs, music venues, historic sites like UNESCO villages, like this one, ports and castles. So we know that art and culture suffers during a pandemic. We know that art and culture adapts during a pandemic, and we know that art survives after a pandemic, and that it can sometimes emerge to be even better. Government support can help it have its best chance at doing that. Even Shakespeare enjoyed royal patronage from Queen Elizabeth I, and that helped him to survive. So it's too soon now to assess the longer-term changes to the arts that the events of the last 2 years have brought about. I think it's also too soon to know whether our own governments have given enough support to these sectors. But it's not too soon for us to be working together and to be looking into the long term to ensure our societies and our people have the digital expertise and the innovative capacity so that the arts and cultural sectors are able to adapt and survive and to thrive during the next challenges to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your very inspirational speech. It gave us comfort, especially regarding this Shakespeare analysis and reflection on the time of crisis in that time. And I have a question regarding digitalization also, but the other part of creative industries and gaming. It is really impressive that in a period of crisis, 2020, gaming sector actually had some income, really great income. So was this cultural policy? It is official policy of the state, or it was something which just came independently? Can you share your reflection with us?
Sure. Well, I mean, certainly during the time of pandemic, it certainly helps that everyone was indoors playing computer games. I think that helped. But aside from that, it has been a deliberate policy of the British government to encourage innovation in British society and in industry. And the main policy is actually that the British government encourages innovation from a very young age, starting from the classroom. So it encourages innovation with small children. It encourages teachers to teach critical thinking, innovative thinking, student-led teaching. And that's something that we've actually been working on here in Montenegro. We have a program called the 21st Century Schools program, where we have British teachers working to instill that sort of spirit of innovation into every single primary school in Montenegro, because I think that's where it starts. So we have innovation all the way through education up to university. And then the other important approach is the links that we encourage between university, between research, between those inventors, those innovators, and industry. So we create the right structures that bring the really creative people together with the money and with the customers to make it happen through sort of, innovation parks. We have an agency that brings those people together and ensures those networks take place. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as I said, it was really inspirational, and hopefully it will give us some ideas for development of similar programs in Montenegro, together with our partners in the international community, especially UNESCO, since we are cooperating with them also in education and science and other areas of UNESCO. And now I will have the honor to ask Her Excellency, Ms. Judy Ranke, for a speech as a Ambassador of the United States of America. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Milica, Mr. Mayor, Excellencies, friends of art and culture, friends of KOTOR. Thank you very much for the opportunity and the honor to be part of the launch of this conference, The New Normal. It's an exciting new normal, and I'm glad that the United States is part of it. I want to specifically thank the KOTOR art organizers, the municipality itself, and UNESCO for making the conference possible. Living in a world that's almost been exclusively virtual for a prolonged period of time because of COVID-19 has been, as we've all said, and we all know, immensely difficult for a number of reasons. But I think my colleagues have already started to weave a theme. We've learned so much from this experience. We all know that theaters and museums, public venues, they've been shuttered for about a year and a half all around the globe. And many of us, and not just artists and performers, but regular people miss this. Regular people, people like me, realize the importance of culture and artistic expression on our mental health and on our well-being. We miss getting together to read a book together. I'm not just talking about major art exhibits, but we miss that stimulation and that thrill. We just missed music concerts. We missed the collective excitement of art and culture. But we're innovative, as we've just discussed. We are thirsting for the arts and culture. And we have realized that artistic expression is invaluable because it provides that mutual understanding that bridges differences, even in those cases where we don't even share the same language. Through art, we've bridged our divides, and through technology, we found that we can bridge the world. So while we experience a cautious return to this new normal that we're celebrating in this 5-day conference, and we do see an improvement in the global health situation, we are experiencing a silver lining. And without being overly optimistic, I think I can say that these online platforms are providing a new opportunity for the arts and culture to flourish. During the pandemic, online platforms came alive. We saw ballet dancers in different venues dancing together. We saw children's Christmas concerts from all over the world. They were accessible to everyone, everywhere, at any time. The arts are more accessible than ever. Embracing these platforms to present content to diverse and dispersed audiences, and that's important, dispersed audiences, enables countries to spread the knowledge of their unique cultural heritage and to share enjoyment of their cultural treasures and traditions. And important for cities like Kotor, it stimulates the desire to see them in person in the future, and tourism will follow. I recently experienced a powerful but small example of how online platforms can create the environment where regular people can find their creative energy and turn it into artwork. I visited in person an art exhibit that was created during an online program sponsored by our American Corners in Podgorica and Cetinje. It was called Art for Social Change. The program explored how the arts can serve as a driver for social change and drew upon the work of American artists, many of whom are well known for their ability to capture a particular moment in history, a moment in time, and the social change associated with it, reflective of the society and the times they were living in. These were regular people taking this online class, and then I looked at the artwork that they created, which was powerful and painful and beautiful. I was reminded of the transformative power of art and the ability to provide a medium through which individuals can express themselves, to say something that is inside them, that may even hurt them, and put it into a beautiful artistic form that others understand. So, while I'm hopeful that we can indeed return safely to some form of life as we know it, in fact, a vigorous life as we knew it before the pandemic, I am grateful that we've explored and embraced alternative platforms to share cultural and educational content. I think individuals will become more engaged in art thanks to what we've experienced in the last year and a half. While it will always be hard to replicate that experience of simply hearing a favorite song in person, I know that the creative opportunities of online platforms going forward will bring more and more accessibility to the arts and cultural exchanges. And I think that is a benefit to artists, to performers, and to people everywhere. So with that, I thank you, and thank you again for letting me be part of this new normal conversation. Good evening.
Thank you for sharing with us this really personal approach towards the effects of COVID on culture, and this is really valuable that you shared your personal experience. It is really meaningful. I wanted to ask you, what do you think, what's your personal position on the effects of COVID on independent scene, cultural scene, comparing to institutional and culture? So do you think that COVID affected more on independent cultural scene like festivals and other independently founded activities and contents, or institutional one, which means museums, libraries, and other cultural institutions?
Thanks, Milica. It's sort of a complicated question. I think it affected everyone. I think that's, in fact, why I chose to talk maybe about the simple effect of art and culture on the well-being and mental health of people who don't even recognize that they need art. And I'm glad my remarks were different than my colleagues, because we're all sharing a similar, I think, set of expressions. The institutions certainly hurt. Financially, institutions were devastated. cities who are heritage sites, who rely heavily on the physical tourism and the funds that go with them. They were devastated, but will come back, as I said, because of the stimulation that has happened through online platforms, and in general, the fact that people have missed travel and culture. So I think it's a widespread impact, Milica. No one was untouched. And maybe that's what's so wonderful and universal about what we've just done. We've all experienced the pandemic. Wherever you go and wherever you travel, you're going to say, what did you do during the pandemic? And you're going to share an experience. And it may have something to do with your yearning for art and culture, and I believe it will. So everyone suffered, and everyone, I think, will come back stronger. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. In Montenegro, we have found that during pandemic and lockdown, we have open specific broadcasting channel, and some of TV archives and different digital forms were presented, and this was really amazing because people didn't know that they have it in their archives, in television, in different institutions. That it was shown for, let's say, first time after decades. So it was really impressive to see some cultural content which were completely forgotten and put it in the archives of institutions. Now I open the floor for discussion, so I invite all of you to comment or to question each other, or of course our other representatives, excellencies, and other ladies and gentlemen who are presented today with us. So please, if anyone would want to share something with us. No? Okay, if not, then we can have a short break, maybe 15 minutes. And then we can count and start with a new panel. Okay, thank you very much for your engagement. It was really inspiring. As you know, we have divided all speakers into two panels. The first one, let's say, United Nations panel, and the other one is EU panel. So on this occasion, I would like to invite Ms. Oana Kristina Popa, Head of Delegation of EU to Montenegro, to address this event.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to be here today. This is my first official visit to Kotor. I've been to Kotor several times since my arrival last year, still in the middle of the pandemic. But this is my first official visit today, and I've been talking pretty much all day, so I'm going to try to keep it short. But I would like to say a few things about the EU's involvement in Montenegro with the pandemic, but also with the arts and culture and with innovation. You are familiar with the fact that since the outbreak of the pandemic, the European Union and the member states firmly stood by Montenegro and the other countries in the Western Balkans in providing economic assistance and donating health equipment, supplying vaccines, and we are really proud of the work we have done and that we have helped protect frontline health workers and improve public health and save jobs. However, in this joint fight for public health and economic recovery, we have tried, and I think we have succeeded, especially lately, not to forget to support culture. Because culture is a vital part of our shared European identity. And I think Kotor is a very good example, a microcosmos as a proof of that. For us, it is very important to invest in creative industries and to use creative industries as a powerful generator of jobs and economic opportunities when it comes to talented young people. And we will continue to do that also because of the vital importance that creative industries have in bringing communities together and creating this sense of shared European identity, culture, and values. And in this regard, the European Union's donation of 1.3 million euro to help restore the old prison in Kotor, which I visited today together with some of my fellow ambassadors, is an example in this regard. And it also shows that this protected cultural heritage site has been turned into a vibrant new hub that will host many artists from Montenegro and across the world in the years to come. And this is something that, like the speakers before me have said, will hopefully stand the test of time. It will be something that we have been investing in now, but will serve future generations. Kotor is also an example and a proof that Montenegro has a lot to contribute to the shared European cultural identity with its rich cultural heritage and its immense talent. So I am very happy to be able to say today that we are able to witness, to enjoy, and to support the exciting revival and advancement of Montenegro's cultural life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments regarding old prison. This is something which is really important for both municipality and Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sports, and all Montenegro. And we are really witnessing how important culture creative sector is, and what can be done together with cultural heritage and cultural creative industries in order to streamline the processes of tourism, culture, and different kind of areas in one important place such as Kotor. So maybe you could just reflect how you will develop cultural creative sector maybe in future with your mandate based on EU approach and your reflection on creative industries.
Absolutely. We have witnessed a change in tourism as well. So probably what the coming years will bring is this combination between culture and tourism. And probably the age of mass tourism as we know it is over. And therefore we need to offer other things to people. And I think that cultural heritage history are those elements that can come and combine together, so that when people come and visit a place like Kotor, it's not just for the breathtaking beauty, which is unquestionable, but also for the things that they can learn and they can see here and can use in a more interactive manner. So the idea is for this creativity that we are investing as European Union and the member states a lot of funds in through our Creative Europe program, for example, to actually bring people closer together. And that is something that we're also doing here on the ground in Montenegro at a smaller scale. We're trying to bring people together and to bring the EU closer to the people through those programs like cultural heritage preservation and investing in innovation.
Thank you. This is really inspiring, and for us it's also important to emphasize this connection between tourism and cultural heritage. As you know, as a Mediterranean country, we also share different challenges with different kind of cultural assets. And with our next speaker and his country, we share 2 UNESCO designations, both multinational. The first one, Stacey, medieval tombstone graveyards, and the second one, Venetian Works of Defense. So I will now invite our dear friend, His Excellency Veselko Grubišić, to address us as Ambassador of Croatia.
Mayor Jokic, Secretary General Milica Nikolić, Mr. Šašum, Excellencies, my dear colleagues, dear organizers. I would like to express my sincere thank you to the organizers of Kotor Art International Festival. You are very brave to organize this event. Congratulations, because you started planning it several months ago. Thinking about culture, I was trying to find the best English word opposite of kulturan. In Croatian and other languages spoken here, opposite of kulturan is word nekulturan. These are, in English, barbaric, cultureless, primitive, uncivil, and even rude. Therefore, I do not even want to say who and what we become without culture. As a person with a long diplomatic experience who traveled the world, I can testify that many times when there is economic crisis, one of the first casualties is budget for culture. However, I can state how during the pandemic we started to feel how lonely and miserable our lives became without cultural events or lack of them. Please evoke how we went to cinemas, theaters, concerts, exhibitions, to see fortresses and events showing our intangible cultural heritage. These were our meeting places. Of course, we enjoyed a glass of wine and a small talk while meeting at these events. Meeting at cultural events was something completely normal. We did not even think that could disappear. At a very few organized cultural events, we were at the distance, wearing masks. Probably the only real benefit was that we paid more attention to the color of our eyes. I know the color of eyes of each of you now. Croatia has been trying to offer our tourists not only comfortable rest at our beautiful Adriatic coast, but to organize different and versatile cultural events and to take them to our towns and cities that are not at the coastline. After a record tourist season in 2019, for Croatia, 2020 was going to be an amazing year. We were preparing to preside the Council of the European Union for the first time in our history, and our beautiful city of Rijeka was going to be European capital of culture. We forecasted new tourists, New money were going towards us, and we were ready to make sure that we offer them cultural events, something for everyone, that they could cherish throughout their life. It started as we expected, but our hopes were cut short. This morning, my colleague Irena Kregar-Šegota, I would like to greet her, she's down at the back, actually gave an excellent presentation about how Rijeka was preparing and what they were doing for Rijeka. She was Director General of this formed company about Rijeka, European capital city. And she mentioned that in the first 2 months, in January and February before pandemic, in Rijeka, the consumption grew 100% comparing with January and February 2019. And you can imagine, they were expecting only in Rijeka 1 million citizens. Luckily, at least the carnival was completed, therefore everybody enjoyed it. Pandemic closed countries. Airplanes stopped flying. The world became a lonely planet. Despite all of this, we tried to regroup and go online. Our artists of all kinds started feeling desperate. Some of them, like many musicians, actors, and others, lost their planned concert or performances. Croatian government decided to keep our cultural institution open. We never had lockdown. Cultural institution open with limited number of visitors, respecting new protection measures. Government decided to help our citizens who were hit by pandemic. Artists of all kinds, musicians and others, were being helped to postpone their financial obligations, and they were able to get financial support like monthly salaries, even if they were free artists without permanent employment. I know other countries did very similarly. People from different media struck by the pandemic were also included in government packages. Ministry of Finance, Agency for Small and Medium Enterprises, together with the Ministry of Culture and Media, started the program in order to help financially entrepreneurs from cultural field. One of the programs that Ministry started was a program because we must play music. There were many other programs. Republic of Croatia had done quite well regarding financial and other help to our artists and to the culture overall. But it is also important to stress the generous financial help by the European Union to its member states. Let me mention just one cultural event that Croatian embassy tried to organize last year here in Podgorica. In museums, in Podgorica museums and galleries. It was a story about cravat, called A Cravat Story. I know that all of you are aware that cravat is a Croatian invention. We had to cancel the exhibition only 1 day before the opening. We installed it 1 year later at the Croatian National Day in 2021 in Delta Shopping Center in Podgorica, knowing that every day around 13,000 people go there. At least people could see it while they were passing. Despite all help and measures undertaken by Croatian and other governments, we could certainly feel the difference between online culture and the one that we can experience directly, one that we can feel and live. On my behalf, I can say that I was longing to be physically present at any cultural event. I strongly believe that after this pandemic, we appreciate culture and our artists of all kinds more than ever before. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. We are really sorry that this pandemic occurred in the meanwhile of having Rijeka as European cultural capital. I had the honor to be present on the opening ceremony. It was really promising and spectacular, but unfortunately the events which came we could not predict. So hopefully we will learn from this experience, and I hope that Rijeka will had the other opportunity to be the center of Europe because it really deserves. I would like to reflect on one point of your speech, which was very interesting, this intangible cultural heritage and the impact of COVID of ICH. So this is something which sometimes we forgot about, since this is a really important subject, and we tend to ignore the local communities and their small traditions and different kind of costumes. What do you think? What is your personal approach on the ICH and the impact of COVID on ICH?
Can you say the last?
What is your personal approach on the impact of COVID on ICH?
On the online or IT
in general?
technology? Well, I think I could only repeat what others said, that we could see, actually, I used this online stream to see a lot of other things, of course, movies and everything else. And this was something that was, I think it was excellent, but still it's not the same. You know, you can enjoy it, you can watch it with others, but completely it's different event, different kind of experience when you go to the theater and experience it. Frankly, I remember when there was a concert, was it Montenegrin Symphonic Orchestra with this? No, with there was your pianist and this Italian soprano in Pozorište in Podgorica. This was one of the first events. I was so happy. You know, I couldn't believe that such a concert could make me so happy. Therefore, when I was going home, you know, I was kind of flying after 1.5 hours of being in the theater. Therefore, I don't think this can replace it. I know European Commission is going to save a lot of money because from now on they are selling all of the buildings, and I think a lot of people are working abroad and they will continue to do so. But I don't think that can replace a real feeling when you come, see, socialize with people, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. I think sometimes we just tend to ignore the importance of local communities and their specific cultures. And this is something which is very in line with UNESCO program and activities. And we have a specific convention on ICH and the importance of this part of heritage. And now, while we are in UNESCO, I would like to ask His Excellency, Ambassador of France, to address us, since you know that France is host country for UNESCO.
Thank you very much, Madam. Dear friends, because I feel we are all friends when it's about culture. First, some words about UNESCO. I don't see my American colleague, but I would like the message to be given. We need you, American friends, back in UNESCO. And that's my only message. And we need you because these are universal values, and we cannot protect against COVID, which is one thing, but against the other negative forces which are really the threat against our world. So we cannot do without you. So come back soon. This is my French message. And here in Kotor, we think about these devastating effects of the big catastrophe of 1979, but about the work, fabulous work, which has been made. I was not here since 20 years, and I could see the fabulous work made here, and this is to be praised. Speaking about technology, I must say I was thinking during some of your speeches about the famous joke about the crazy guy with a hammer and asking why he was doing that. It's so good when it stops. And I think with the COVID, this will be the same. We are all longing. It was not a normal situation, and I don't think that real culture, human culture, is possible for a long time. So I am very full of respect and gratitude for all the artists. I think about the actors of Comédie Française who started to read À la recherche du temps perdu every day. When we were reading the book, sometimes we thought it's a bit long, but when we listened to the actors, we said, let's hope that the COVID will finish before the end of the performance. But anyway, this was a brave act, and it has opened, I think, Proust to a lot of people. But I would have preferred another way. And let's hope that we will go to other ways. The dimension I was thinking most, which is very important for UNESCO, is education. And this is the one on which we should really think, but it was just 1-2 years. But if it continues like that, and it will continue not in our countries, because I think that with vaccination, with vaccine, we will be spared. But let's think that there is a terrible unequal treatment in the world, despite all our efforts, and even the European efforts, the American efforts. There is a tremendous separation in our world, and I must say I cannot speak about culture and in front of the representative of UNESCO without thinking about the inequality, the terrifying inequality which will exist and which will be, I think, a threat to the world heritage and culture. Where is the transmission when the kids are not home? Because with all my respect for the Shakespeare performers, I think that one needs the teachers to bring Shakespeare to the kids. This is very important. We all try with the French Institute during this year to use the most modern methods. I hope it was useful. There were plenty of programs. Let's hope that it was useful. Here, I must say, we still continued with education in French, and I must say with some result, because we didn't lose so many pupils, which proves that there is resilience on this field. Let's say that to help the culture, we have tried as soon as it was possible. We organized on the 21st of June a day of music with French music, and it was wonderful to see the young musicians, the talented Montenegrin musicians to be there, and we shared with all measures a wonderful moment, and I share very much with my Croatian colleague. I can tell you, this is one of the best things of COVID, was my emotion when I was first time to attend the performance of the Philharmonie, of the Montenegrin Philharmonie, and being there, and I was almost crying on any note, without judging the artistical performance, which was brave and beautiful, with the same energy coming from the musicians. So perhaps in all these catastrophes there will be some unforgettable moments which are part of our humanity. But let's hope that they will be behind us. Speaking about modern techniques, we had created a program during these pandemics. We are speaking about digitalization of some artistic archives of Montenegrin art, of Montenegrin artists. I hope we will continue with this program, which is promoted by the French Institute. We have started again some programs in art, and I had the fortune to host the French cultural counselors of the region, and they are building some regional projects, because I think it's very important to put back together. It's very important, more important in these days. And to help, I will not make details about what we tried about helping the professionals in France. it's never enough, but we are very happy that Avignon, the Festival for Theatre, started again live, and that we have the representative of the Montenegrin Center for Cinema in Cannes for the festival. I see he will be part of your festival here, and we are preparing with him a project for an agreement for co-production, and this is the old new culture. We have really to continue on these lines of the past. There will be new challenges. The pandemic is not finished. There will be very big challenges. I must say I was very touched this morning by what Mr. Meyer said about his idea of improving the quality of tourism. I think, quality is not coming by itself. It's a fight. We have to propose the best things to the people so that they would enjoy. And I think that, if you make too much digitalization in tourism, people will stay home. So we have really to show them that the real thing is the best. And I can tell you that with our cultural exchanges, we hope that next year we will give some food for that. And I'm so happy to have in August some artists from your festival coming to Podgorica, and we have decided to support this very, very, very beautiful tradition, and let's maintain the tradition. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing your view. It is really inspiring, and we also hope that United States will join us together again, hopefully soon. But I have one question. Actually, you just tackled this issue regarding too much digitalization. I have read the article that recently Louvre Museum has actually opened a new platform with 480,000 works of art from Musée du Louvre and Eugène Delacroix. Do you think that it could also harm on some level traditional way of culture if it, it's really accessible to everybody, if people will just stay online and watch it from home or from work and they will not visit museums as much as in past?
Knowing the number of reproductions of Mona Lisa which existed before analogic banks and the people coming to Paris to check whether it was so good in reality as on the picture, I have no fear that it would create so much problems. No, I think it's a duty we have. Louvre is an extraordinary deposit coming from all layers of history, even the Napoleonic Wars and all that. So we have a debt toward mankind. And I think if there is a possibility to make it accessible, I think it's more for researchers, but even for pleasure of people. I was a student in history of art, and I can tell you that it was sometimes very painful to find some reproductions, to find some acceptable data about some pictures. So I think it will make the life of the specialist better. But I don't think that it will have an impact, except to give the taste for some people seeing some picture on a catalog, digitalized catalog, and to give them perhaps the will to see the real thing. We try to exhibit more, as you know, because we have this big Louvre, and now all the real good things are exhibited more or less. Like the second rate are just revolving. But I am more interested in what we are trying to do these days with the restitution of works of art coming from Africa. And that proves that our roots are with the real artifacts, that people need to have them, not to touch them, because it's forbidden in museums, but this sense of property is perhaps more complicated than to put are at disposal of the people, just the pictures and the data. This is one thing. This is very important for the research and from some appropriation by mankind as a whole, symbolically. But anyway, the relation we have with the works of art is a sort of personal and of question of beating heart, like my Russian friend had when he listened to the Italian soprano.
Thank you, Ambassador Timonije. The truth is that our culture should be really accessible to everybody, and we hopefully are doing everything to reach this goal. Also, when you mentioned this restitution of cultural goods, there's also UNESCO convention which also could help in this, and I'm sure that you are already familiar with that. Now I would invite our next speaker, our Ambassador of Germany, His Excellency Robert Weber, to address us.
Thank you very much, dear friends. I say friends because you're still with us here in the room, so thank you. I would like to start, for the sake of the argument and also to catch your attention, with a little bit provocative statement. The new normal is the old normal. And as our French friend said, la condition humaine remains unchanged. In world wars, in revolutions, in pandemics. It's a circle of birth, growth, aspiration, disappointment, decline, death. Basically, this remains the same. And these are also the topics which artists address, and they remain the same. We have heard a lot about digital age, and I think the fact that we are in the digital age helped us to survive this pandemic. It helped us to exchange our questions and our answers, but it didn't produce questions or answers. Like the invention of the printing machine helped to spread ideas worldwide, but did not create new ideas. Also, the digital helps us to share, keeps us connected, but there is still a human dimension that is not fully addressed, even through these fantastic technical means. I think we all know it. Kissing a person we love, drinking a glass of wine, eating a fantastic fish, smelling flowers, are things which are maybe one day even digital possible, but not as good as they are in real life. So there is a lot of things for art still to do, because artists address exactly these things. And they can do it with the help of digital elements, but at the end, they are going to these emotions. They are speaking about, they are addressing love and hate, hope and despair, death and life. And these remain the topics. So with all the changes and all the new opportunities we have, I repeat, the new normal is in large part the old normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your view on this issue. Can you also share with us your reflection on the impacts of COVID on the younger generation of artists and individuals working in culture, people who are just finishing their studies and they're reaching actually cultural scenes, and then COVID starts? What do you think if they suffer, and how much would they suffer?
Yeah, I think, of course, during pandemic they have learned to use the new means. To give concerts, digital concerts. We made exhibitions where they could see the paintings or the sculptures. So, of course, this has opened new doors. But when I saw last night, the youth orchestra of Montenegro playing, and this fun that they saw our reactions, clapping and looking at them, I think we have to take these two dimensions, they should and have to use these new opportunities and try them out and go to the limits. But there will be always a backbone, and that is a human interaction. And I think this is for artists very important. They give something from themselves into their art, and they should get something from us as an audience in an authentic response. So I think, yes, enlarged, but I think we will also, there again, the young artists will need us as an audience. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that also they could benefit from this occasion, and maybe they will be more inventive than we usually do in these normal circumstances. Now I invite our next speaker, Ambassador of Slovenia, Mr. Robert Weber. Please, Your Excellency. Sorry. Gregor Presker, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of hard to speak after so poetic, romantic, and emotional speech of my German colleague. Anyway, good evening to everyone. Dear organizers, thank you very much for inviting me to speak at Kotor Art Festival, to be here with you tonight in an active role in the city that I'm coming to since I was a kid. In a city when I'm still coming to, and whenever I come, I discover something new, something different, which actually inspires me to come over and over again and really feel it. I prepared my speech, but since we're running out of time, I'm really going to keep it short. I wanted to speak about how it affected the culture, how it affected culture in international relations. But anyway, you know, Slovenia is presiding the EU. And of course, as every country who's presiding, we also have prepared the cultural program. Hopefully, we're going to be able to realize some of it. Croatia didn't have that kind of luck. Probably Germany didn't as well. But we hope that we're going to be able to realize concerts, exhibitions, debates live, not only online. But anyway, we have adopted our program to this new normal. We have created several initiatives. I'm going to just present 4 of you tonight here, which can show how we can do things either online or live. First initiative is Europe Reader. Authors, web page europereader.eu. You can find books written or in original language or translated in English, French, and some other, I believe. This platform was created with UNIC and was launched on the 1st of July. And what's important, it is also dedicated to the youngest. There are some wordless books with pictures they can look at together with their parents or relatives or whatever. The second is the future of living, made in Slovenia. This is dedicated to the creative industries. It is an exhibition that's going to go around 25 plus countries where we present the creative industry of Slovenia, our products, which are linked also to sustainability principles. It's a promotion of them, and they show the cooperation between creative and economic sector. I have to stress that the exhibition is going to be hopefully presented also in Montenegro in mid-September in Podgorica. And today, while visiting the new creative hub in Kotor, idea came to my mind that maybe we could also present it here to Kotor. It might be interesting for the public here as well. The third one is artificial intelligence, our future. So there's going to be a series of debates ran worldwide, online, on how artificial intelligence is affecting our lives and how can we get out of it as much as we can. And of course, we're going to focus as well on the human rights aspect of the artificial intelligence. And the fourth one is bee houses and the traditional Slovenian breakfast. You know that Slovenia was initiator of proclamation of the World Bee Day that was proclaimed by the United Nations in 2016. We really attach importance to the bees and all the pollinators that are important for the sustainable development of our planet. And according to that, hopefully we're going to be able to organize some traditional Slovenian breakfast with honey. And we're going to donate some hives to the Kuća Meda in Danilovgrad in September this year. So something online, something live. Hopefully we will be able to gather like we did tonight here. We heard today about a lot about creative industries. How creative can we be? Especially Karen told about how for one closed door another one opens, and we have to be very inventive. And creative industry are that. So probably more than anything before, the pandemic uncovered the immense contribution of culture and creativity to citizens' well-being, social innovation, economic growth, and international cooperation. Policymakers and businesses now increasingly recognize cultural and creative sectors as the key players in the construction of this new normal. United Nations, proclaimed this year to be as a year of creative economy and sustainable development, and Slovenia is following all of these sustainable development goals in creative industry as well. That is why, together with the Union of Mediterranean, we created a platform, creativeforum.si, where there is a possibility to have an exchange between creatives, entrepreneurs, and policymakers on the creative sector. With the creativeforum.si, we wish to render visible the key role of cultural and creative sector in the Green Deal transition and in creating trust and understanding among nations. In hardly any other economic sector, the idea of an united and peaceful world is as manifest and as advocated as in the cultural and creative industries. Slovenia, therefore, we can announce that under our presidency, we're going to be host of a high-level international conference on cultural and creative industry called Future Unlocked. By this, I would like to also to say that Slovenia really recognizes all the efforts that Montenegro is putting into creative industries and creative sector, which was we could see today by visiting the not officially opened yet Kotor Creative Hub. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity and to invite the Montenegrin creative sector, representative creative sector, to participate actively at the conference, which is going to be in September in Ljubljana. Well, that's it for me for now. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations for your presidency and really ambitious program that you have, and thank you for the invitation of our creator sectors. Probably, I hope that someone would come. But I want to ask something differently. There is a World Heritage Committee which starts tomorrow, and one of the inscriptions of this year will be the timeless humanistic architecture of Jože Plečnik. So Slovenia will have additional World Heritage Site on its own purposes. What do you think? Will it give additional visibility to culture in everyday life? Will it boost tourism and other sectors, this additional?
Of course, we have seen that and talked about tonight about how, different events, different locations can really attract people together to visit and to travel the world. So I think every new initiative can contribute the people to travel around, to see and to feel. That's what we heard today. Something different is when you see something online or on picture, or to feel it. Feeling is something completely different. I was talking in the beginning about Kotor and how I feel about it. I would like to say sorry to Veselko, but I've been, of course, to Dubrovnik many, many times. Dubrovnik is a wonderful city, something special. But I think that Kotor has some more ingenuity, something more, and that's you can feel it just by being here, by feeling the atmosphere, not by seeing it on the picture. Veselko, Dubrovnik will sometimes always be a jewel in the Mediterranean, but you know, everyone has can have a different opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I was really happy to see that Slovenia got really good remarks from ICOMOS, which is, as we know, really strict about this proposition of inscriptions on the World Heritage List. So we were really celebrating that together with Slovenia. So hopefully you will lead us in many other. Please, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will really very brief. I would like to very briefly touch upon the question, what will be the role of arts and culture after the pandemic? It will be the same role that it was before the pandemic. What is the role of art and culture? To stimulate our senses, to give us food for thoughts, to initiate discussions, and to bring people together. And this role will be the same. And I hope it will not only be in digital way, but it will be in person, because this is the most important thing. And that's it.
Thank you. It was really a nice finish of this whole sentence and this meeting. So now I will open the floor for discussion. If anyone had something to add, to ask, or to comment of ambassadors on this panel or the previous one, I see Sinisha is raising hand.
Okay, I can from here. First of all, I really wish to thank you all. So this is, all what you said is extremely inspiring for us from UNESCO. And having in mind that, the Montenegro is at the moment, chairing the Council of Ministers of Culture of Southeastern Europe, I think, many elements that you have mentioned, they can go directly into the declaration to be elaborated soon of the ministerial, the network, So I just wanted to go very, very quickly, if you allow me 1 or 2 minutes, through all what I hear today, which is very, very, very important, Talking about isolation, we heard the story about Shakespeare. Sorry, and we heard the story about Shakespeare, but I will tell you something that was initiated, in 2012, at that time by Bosnia, Montenegro, and Serbia, Biennale of Contemporary Art in Konjic, in the former Tito bunker, where the artists from all over the world, from most of your countries, were coming and working together few hundred meters under the surface. So they were working in insulation. So it's very, very important to see that, creativity should not stop even through the difficult period. EU ambassador mentioned something, that about new interpretation of heritage, connecting the heritage and history. Just here in Kotor in October this year, UNESCO is organizing the workshop, for European countries on interpretation of heritage. Because I think, this pandemic will bring something new, which is very important, and we will try to tackle this issue. Ambassador of Croatia mentioned inauguration of Rijeka. I was also privileged to be there with Milica, because there was also a ministerial meeting of Council of Ministers of Culture of Southeastern Europe, and theme was exchange of artists and movement of artists, something that everyone is looking for at the present, So I think it's something that should be kept, and in our minds, Also, 28 February 2020, during the presidency of the Croatia of the European Council, there was a conference in Dubrovnik on resilience of heritage and, impact of the disaster, natural disaster, and to cultural heritage. We didn't know at that time, but we were at just very beginning of the pandemic. Ambassador of Russia, mentioned something extremely important, that is, devastating impact of the COVID to World Heritage properties worldwide. And this was really something that we tried, to attract through the many, presentations and promotion of the World Heritage Site. It was really heartbreaking to see completely empty sites, that was, all over the places, there was also mention of Ambassador of Bosne and Herzegovina, Mr. Jukic, about importance of solidarity. And this is something, that will help us to overcome all this period, The colleague from Austria said something, that role of art and creativity, it's really enriching us. And we really need to do everything to protect these things, The American ambassador said about, importance of the culture for the mental health. It's very important. We know also in some previous attempts, when we had the devastating, the floods in this part of Europe, where the culture was also a key issue to help people to recover from this, Story of Shakespeare from UK ambassador was really, really, the inspiring, and this, I tried to connect this with the Konjic, where people were also working insulation. I will not comment as a staff member of UNESCO, I cannot comment appeal of French ambassador, but I really appreciate that, I must say, And, I really appreciate, this, what you have mentioned, importance of education, because for us, education and culture have to go together and they cannot be disconnected in any way, German ambassador was talking about life cycle, which is very important, how all these things is being developed, And also this is very important, that digital help us, to overcome this, the really challenging period, but it cannot replace human contact. And this today gathering is proof of that. Ambassador of Slovenia, thank you for mentioning, because Slovenia is just recently got actually UNESCO Center of Second Category of Artificial Intelligence, and artificial intelligence, it is one of the topics to be further developed on this, and I hope, although I should not say that, Plečnik work is going to become, the part of the World Heritage. So I hope, that I didn't, forget or miss anyone, but all what you were saying, that we need to protect the richness of the diversity that we are witnessing everywhere in all parts of the world every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Siniša. You had really nice remarks on a short overview of different speeches, and I think it was really to the point. We have witnessed that culture is the most vulnerable sector, but also at the same time the fastest one to adapt to new circumstances and create new innovative solutions. So now I also invite other guests or speakers to address if they have some comment or question. Anybody? Okay, then I have to thank you all. Thank you for coming and participating in this really important meeting. And next few days will also open interesting discussions. And also we would like to see you again here as a guest to hear what other speakers would offer and to interact with us with different discussions. Having said that, I thank also Municipality of Kotor and especially Kotor Art Festival, Mr. Ratimir Martinovic and his team for the organizing of this conference, and of course our partners UNESCO in this process. Thank you very much.